Hello, everyone. Welcome. We were just sort of organizing ourselves a little bit, and we're 1 minute late, so we're going to jump right on into
Oh,
this.
geez. Okay.
This is Sherry Killer, just live from Vancouver with At 45, the magazine for women over 45, those of us who are rediscovering who we are and exploring what we want next in life. And we want more of everything: love, fun, laughter, and fulfillment. And these are trying times. Our quarantine conversations are an opportunity to break out of those four walls that we're finding ourselves in, get some mental stimulation, laugh a little bit, and share experiences. The magazine is working very hard to provide a forum for women generally, but specifically right now, we're focused on getting us all through these difficult times. So just a little bit of housekeeping. The program is taped and it will load up to our YouTube channel. And so if you don't want your image out in the public domain, please use an avatar or take your video off. And the agenda is quite simple. We're going to chat with our guest for about 20 or 30 minutes, and then we'll open it up for people to tell us where they're coming from, ask some questions of our guest, and generally give us an opportunity to connect a little bit. So welcome, everybody. Today we're talking with Carole Bertuzzi Luciani, who is a motivator, a humorist, a professional speaker and author, and most of all, she's a viral sensation. If you had an opportunity to look on our magazine this week, you will see that she is profiled in one of our articles, and we're just thrilled to have her. Welcome so much, Carole.
Thank you. It's a pleasure this is the first time I've done something like this, so it's a pleasure to be joining you.
Well, we're so happy to have you. So I'm just really curious. When I seen your video, it was just like such an amazing experience, but I had never heard of a Moodivator. So what exactly is a Moodivator?
That's because I made the word up. I made the word up. That's why you've never heard of it.
So what exactly do you do as a Moodivator?
Okay, so do you want me to give you the background?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So I've been a professional speaker since about 1986. And prior to that, I spoke free of charge for about 12 years. So early 90s, I went and listened to a series of motivational speakers. And in listening there, I realized I am not a motivational speaker. I do not speak about great aspirations of wealth. I define success by my own standards. And I realized at the time that I was more a motivational speaker. The word just came to me, and I have stuck with it since the early 90s. I refer to myself as a motivational speaker to tickle your funny bone.
Well, you certainly have subject matter that does tickle the funny bone. How do you get inspiration?
Well, a lot of it comes from boredom. To be honest, like I wake up each day knowing I'm going to have another day in isolation. And for me, creativity oozes out during boredom because I don't want to bore myself. So all these ideas come to me and I really execute them for my own pleasure. It amuses me. And by throwing it out there, there's no long range goal. I'm amusing myself. I'm posting it. I'm following through with my promise to post every day. And whatever comes back is bonus. So this conversation with you but we're in the bonus round.
Well, I mean, many of our listeners and are women in business, and I think they would lust after having 1.17 thousand subscribers and 245,000 views on the video. And I think what I'm hearing you say is it's just a natural progression of what you've been doing.
Absolutely. I don't believe I'm doing anything different than I've been doing for the past 35 years, except now I have a captive audience. People are at home. They're looking for things to do. I've provided a little bit of amusement for them, and they've just taken it and run with it. The first fitness video, because there's 2 out now, is at 1.7 million.
Amazing.
But okay, so now what? Like,
well, I think what I found quite fascinating about the whole thing, Carole, was that it gives everyone hope. Well, not hope, but if you aspire to have a following, you know, often we're thinking, oh, we have to be so careful what we put up. You know, our branding needs to be a certain way. But what I found so refreshing about your video was you were actually poking fun at yourself.
that's what it's all about. I mean, as a humorist, I have built my career on doing just that. That's my specialty. Whether I'm speaking on dealing with the public, dealing with difficult people, balance, grief. My most recent one is grief. My presentation style has to be done with humor because that's me. And although the videos that I've been posting certainly wouldn't be anything that I would, you know, maybe speak at a conference about, it is a reflection of me. That's who I am. And as I get older, and based on some of the life experiences I've had, you know what? I'm doing it for my pleasure. I'm not doing it. If there are critics out there, that's okay. It doesn't matter to me. This is wonderful. I'm experiencing wonderful things in isolation. I'm having people surface from my past that said, oh my goodness, Carole, my friend sent me this video. She didn't know that you and I worked together in the 70s. And that has been absolutely wonderful. And the other beautiful part to it is I'm getting messages from people all over the world. And the message is the same. Thank you so much. I really needed that. So for me, that's wonderful. That's all I need to hear.
Well, and I think these are trying times that we find ourselves in. First of all, where are you in the world?
I live in Oakville, Ontario, which is in between Toronto and Hamilton, Lake Ontario.
Now we have quite a few people who are coming from around the world. So what's the reality of the COVID-19 response in your area?
Well, it's getting very serious. We know that we are behind New York State. And if people don't start to do their part and pull their weight, it looks grim. So part of my reasoning for posting every day, something that is hopeful, optimistic, lighthearted, but it's also to kind of reinforce that message of, hey guys, we have to do this. Like there's still a lot of stupid out there.
Absolutely. Yesterday on the program, we had a couple women who were actually in quarantine, and I think, what I'm hearing from many people is that there is a sort of a mindset while you're in quarantine or lockdown or whatever it's called in your area, and it becomes very negative. And so do you have any advice or perspective that you can share with women who are feeling overwhelmed in that, and maybe a takeaway?
Well, it's out of our control. So we can only control us. And part of controlling us is we have to follow the rules. And I'm saying this as a person, I never follow the rules. I've never followed the rules, ever. All of a sudden, I'm really behaving myself, other than my videos. I'm behaving myself. I'm doing, because I figure the healthcare providers, the politicians, the media people, they have a responsibility out there. The least we could do is follow the rules. And if you're feeling overwhelmed, we have got to reach out. And women do this best. That's what women are about. We reach out, we connect with our friends, we're open, we listen, we're there for people. And we have to continue to do that. And one of the things that, I'm trying to advocate in, one of my videos and a few of my posts is if everyone just took on one thing to do to get us through this. And some people are posting, prayers, and some people, like me are using humor and, just kind of silly little things, anything. Some people are sewing the masks. People are baking, people are cooking, providing food. Do one thing. And as soon as you put yourself out there and do one thing, there's less dwelling on yourself. And, we know that. That's a given.
We know lots of things, but often, when you're hunkered down, you're not thinking about what you know.
Because we get caught up in ourselves and we feel sorry for ourselves. It's interesting, but I see this process, and I had a chat with a friend about it, and then somebody else actually sent me an article along the same lines. And, that happens often where the thought process is the same cosmically. But I said to her, I feel that this whole crisis that we're going through and how people are reacting, it's very much like grieving. And sure enough, the experts in that field are saying the same thing. And it's a loss. We have lost our lifestyle. We have temporarily, we have lost our freedom. We have lost our friends. And many people are approaching it like it is grief.
Absolutely. And that's where I think I appreciated your videos so much, because although we're grieving our personal loss, we can also take a look at ourselves and try and lighten up, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, one of the things that I found hilarious and identified with totally was you were describing some of the effects of aging as you're trying to set up your circuit. And I think many of us, even outside of these times, struggle with that aging and ageism. How do you feel about that? Do you feel an advocate?
Well, first of all, you're talking to someone who went premature gray in my 30s. And because, I'm 5'11", and people always attribute height with age for whatever reason. It started when we were 3, I guess. They just assumed we were older, and they've carried it through my whole life. So I've always been that one that people have mistaken for being older than I am. If I didn't have a mirror and I didn't meet up with these people, I'd be like 37 years old. Like, in my heart, I am very, very young. But, I just look at it. I've had the white hair forever. I've embraced it. You deal with it. It's my look. It's a lot of people's look. You just go with it. The one thing about aging for me, I feel fabulous. Physically, I feel great. And I just hope, my aging hasn't worked out the way I had anticipated, because I'm widowed now, and that changes things. But as I approach aging, what I pray for is that I hold on to my health, because I remember my Nonna used to always say, Thea, if you don't have your health, you have nothing. And she's absolutely right. So for right now, physically, I feel good. I have fabulous friends. I have a great circle of friends. My kids love me. What more can I ask for?
It's true. Well, there we've always got things that we can be grateful for.
Yeah.
It's a fabulous outlook. So tell us a little bit about the books that you've written. It was some very eclectic
So
collection.
Around 1985, I was on maternity leave and I was introduced to my first computer, and I was coming up with, okay, so what could I use to practice, you know, inputting or whatever it was back then. No, inputting was in university when you had the cards and you had to fill in the little squares. So I decided that I would start keeping track of my stories, because as a speaker, I draw on my stories. I don't use anybody else's stories. Like what I learned going back to that series of speakers in the early 90s, the number of times I heard the same story trying presented as their own, and within this one conference I heard the same story 3 times from 3 different speakers, and I vowed right then I would not be that speaker. So I wanted to bring together my own stories, and I just started making a list. And then beside each story, I'd say, okay, this one's really good for dealing with the public, or this one's really good for stress, or this one's really good for humor. And then as I would present or put together a presentation, I would refer to that list. So as years went on, you know, I would have friends say, when are you going to do a book? No, I'm not going to do a book. I'm not a writer. I'm a speaker. When are you going to do a book? So finally, one friend said to me, okay, like you got to do a book. And I said, well, yeah, I mean, it's in my computer, but, you know, and so then I referred to a university course where they gave me F+ in English. So I figured, okay, I'm not even a writer. So she said, look, give me all your stories the way you've written them and let me just tweak them. And she did. And with each one she tweaked, I met with her, my friend from grade 5. And I read the story out loud because I wanted to make sure it was still my voice telling the story, so that if anyone knew me, and again, I wrote the book for me and my family, you know, like whoever hands it landed in, great. As I would read it, I'd go, yeah, that sounds like me. Yeah, those are my words. So in the first book, I was sitting outside and I said, okay, how many books am I going to get? And it's like I saw it written in the sky, 5,000. I had no clue about 5,000 books. So I said to the, oh, there's a puppy dog. Hi.
Hi, Maureen. You'll just need to have mute your there just until we finish, and then we'll open the calls up. Go ahead, Carole.
Okay, so anyway, the 5,000 books arrive, and it's basically 3 pallets. And I live in a small house, okay? They arrived in the rain. One guy delivered them. He said, I'm just going to leave them at the end of your driveway. I'm going, first of all, the magnitude of the books, suddenly it hit me. What am I going to do with these books? Like, oh my goodness. So anyway, fast forward, I now have 3 books. The second 2, my friend merely read them. She had nothing to do with them. She said, you are well on your way. And I reached the point, I didn't care if somebody said, oh, the sentence structure isn't right here. Like, I think really that's what it gets down to is I'm an inside out person. If it feels right for me, I'm going to go with it. I'm not going to do something for the benefit of somebody else if it does not feel right to me. And then, you know, I always say to my kids, you could do or say anything you want as long as you're prepared to deal with the consequences. So most of the time I'm dealing with the consequences.
Well, that's 1.4 million views. So as a humorist, do you share stories or like, what would you say is the key sharing that you give as a humorist?
Well, we have to lighten up, and absolutely you have to laugh at yourself. because a lot of people rely on other people's humor. For example, men typically don't reveal much about themselves as far as poking fun at themselves. Men typically will share jokes. Women don't remember jokes. We never remember. We always screw up the punchline. Or wait, is that how it went? Did I already tell you this? Oh my God, I forgot. So for me, in relying on my own stories, number one, I always remember them because they were mine. And I am showing them what I'm trying to relay to them. The humor's right here. We must laugh at ourselves, because then we'll never run out of anything to laugh about. But that requires getting rid of our layers that we have been wrapping around ourselves since we were kids. Like if you look at a child upwards to school age, they have a fabulous sense of humor. They'll go outside in their tutu. They'll put a pot on their head. It doesn't matter, because they've been raised to believe that they're the cutest and funniest and most special person on earth. And then they go to school. And then the finger comes out and people start poking at them and making fun of them. And then we slowly build a layer and another layer and another layer. And it could be your husband, or it could be your brother-in-law, your sibling, who starts to poke at it, and we go, no, don't do that. No, I hurt. Don't do that. When we can release that and reveal, this is me. This is me. Accept me. This is me. I'm not going anywhere.
Yes, but it's very hard for many of us to actually do that. I mean, we grow up with, or as you say, from teenage years on, we start to have all these inhibitions. So do you have any steps or any suggestions for how to start to get rid of those layers?
Well, so much of it is your internal dialogue. I have been blessed with a voice in my ear that is loving and nurturing and coaching and encouraging. And I screw up often. And my voice says, you know what, honey, it's okay. They're not going to remember your name tomorrow. We have to accept ourselves, that we're doing the best we can. I don't know, I guess I just reached a point. First of all, I was blessed with a husband that was my number one fan and accepted me for any way that I was. And it didn't matter how often I screwed up, he'd go. As a matter of fact, the most significant thing he said to me prior to his death was, it doesn't matter how much you piss me off, you still make me laugh. And I figured,
how sweet.
Okay, I got to go with that. So I gotta know that I'm entertaining him right now with these videos. He may be shaking his head, but he's entertained.
I bet you he's so proud of you and putting yourself out there. So
sorry to interrupt,
no,
but
go
with
for
inhibitions, what we're really afraid of is we're afraid of being judged, and we're afraid of other people. But if we only knew that other people have the same fear, I did, each year I challenge myself in January. I call it my volunteer adventure. And I've been doing it for about 16 years now. And for maybe 4 of those years, I wasn't able to go away. So I designed my own challenge. And one year, my challenge was 31 days of learning. That every day I left the house, I had to go and take part in a workshop, a seminar, a class, whatever that I'd never done before. And number one, it's an exercise in stepping out of your comfort zone. You're on your own. You show up, no one's paying attention to you because they're so concerned about themselves. And I realized that what really holds us back is that fear of judgment. that someone's going to look at me and say, you know what, you trying to pole dance, you know how ridiculous you look. But if I'm the first one laughing at me trying to pole dance, it doesn't matter what anybody else is thinking. So we have to really, it comes from self-love and self-acceptance. You know, we have to be our own best friend. We can't go out thinking that, you know, if I do this, I will be happier. If I meet up with the right man, I will be happier. It starts right here. Like, I know that I have to love myself to be the person I want to present as. And if I get love back, wow, that's fabulous. But I know deep down, I'm okay. I'm okay in my own company. I'm bored, but I'm okay.
Well, I think that's very profound, because especially now when so many of us are stuck inside, you know, it's an opportune time for us to perhaps naturally do some inside work. But often, again, like I said, it's in the negative light. And I think, you know, it's actually a great time for us to spend some quiet time with ourselves and actually, you know, list 20 things that we love about ourselves.
There are so many different exercises available, and you see a lot of them online now, or like social media. It's really spending time with yourself, and that's been a part of my history, spending time with myself. And probably about 5 years ago, I did a 6-day silent retreat. Now, talk about a challenge. But you learn a lot about yourself in that time, and you walk away knowing whether or not you like your own company.
That
You know,
sounds like an amazing experience.
the most interesting part of that experience for me was I learned how much of a social animal I am. So, for example, if I go out, I leave my house, I make eye contact with every single person I see, which led to another challenge I did. But at the silent retreat, not only did you not speak, no one looked at you. And that was very unnerving. And I, over the course of 6 days, I would, you know, sit there and I would look around at every participant. And I knew already, if I had the opportunity, I knew what my opening line was going to be to engage in conversation with those people. But I found that really odd, to sit around a table eating, and you're looking over my left ear and I'm looking over his right ear, and no one is making eye contact. That was very uncomfortable for me.
I think that would be very unnerving.
Yeah.
So is there one piece of advice that you've received in your life that really made a difference, or that you've used over the years?
It has nothing to do with my career, but my grandmother was my most favorite person. And she used to say, doesn't matter who you meet, you treat them all the same. Nobody's better than you, and you're not better than anybody. That has kept me straight. I put a lot of value in that. Oh, and this is one that when I worked in a hospital for 10 years, and 7 of those years I was in public relations. So I dealt a lot with a whole bunch of different groups, and the chairman of the board, this one particular, you know, session, I always loved him. He had a glass eye, but he had a twinkle in his eye, and he just had a wonderful charm about him. And I asked him just that thing, what advice would you give to someone who, you know, is kind of moving through their career. And he said, Carole, let me share something with you. I have made it my mission that any person that I come in contact with, I share a laugh with. I loved that one, because that was very much in line with who I was. But to hear it from him, he was vice president of McLean Hunter at the time, which would have been in the 80s. And I thought, I like that.
That's powerful.
Yes.
You know, that's almost a creed.
Yes, because you don't know how the conversation or interaction is going to end, but if you could start it out sharing a laugh with a person or getting them to smile, you're setting the scene.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. I'm actually going to put that on my wall, I think. So last question before we open it up for people to chat with us and ask you some questions.
Are my wrinkles showing when I bend like this?
You're doing just fine. But the question that I wanted to ask was, out of all the speaking engagements that you've done, or the speaking gigs that you've had, what's the one thing that resonates with you personally as you deliver it?
Well, I know what my favorite one was.
Okay.
It was a provincial conference for Girl Guide leaders. There were 900 women in the room, and we laughed from start to finish. It was a fabulous experience. I mean, I've had wonderful audiences over the years. Like I don't know, I've been speaking since 86, and in my heyday, I was speaking at over 100 times a year. So, you know, I've spoken to a lot of people. Women's groups are the best. Men's groups are fun because I poke at them, and you know, they begrudgingly, you know, soften up inevitably. But that Girl Guides groups were fabulous because, you know, number one, they're fun women. Like anybody that would be a Girl Guide leader, they're fun. And oh, I've had great time. As a matter of fact, I've spoken out in BC to the BC provincial conference, but this other one was an Ontario one.
Well, I think that's one thing. Since I've had the magazine, I am astounded by the graciousness of women, how women, you know, I was in a male-dominated industry for years, and you'd always hear about how catty women are and, you know, how they can't work together. Since I've had this magazine, it's just been astounding at the you know, the friendship. And women are naturally, I think, as you said, supportive. It's in our DNA to
Absolutely.
nurture.
Absolutely.
And so when you draw that power together, it is just astounding.
It's in us. Some people, well, it gets back to, some just get caught up in themselves and they take themselves too seriously, and they're missing out. They're missing out.
Absolutely.
You know, when we could break it down to our common denominator, and a turning point for me in speaking was, see, when I started speaking, I was young. Like, I spoke right out of university, and then when I turned professional, I was 35. So a lot of the conferences that I went to, I was the youngest in the room, you know, because most of them were well established into their careers. And I remember being invited to speak to a group of bankers. And just in preparation, I'm thinking, oh my goodness, bankers, like, I have a degree in recreation. How am I going to talk to bankers? And so, you know, you kind of work yourself into a little bit of a state. And I walked into where it was being held, and I was following a group of women. And I always like to listen in on their conversations because I use it when I'm speaking. you know, because they have no clue that maybe I'm the speaker, but I was the one they asked where the washroom was, you know.
Right.
And what these women were talking about was they had just spent, you know, $5.95 on a brand new pair of pantyhose, and there's already a run. And that day, I still remember where I was. I thought, you know what? Get over it, Carole. These people are just like you. They just happen to have a different profession. And that's carried me right through. And I don't get intimidated by the groups anymore because I think, hey, I'm not aspiring to be you. I'm not telling you how to do your job. I don't know anything about it. A couple of weeks ago, I spoke to women in aerospace.
Wow.
I mean, you know, God bless you. I don't know anything about it, like, and I don't aspire to.
But you know how to laugh, Carole.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I know that given the opportunity, I can change the mood in the room. And that's why the name Moodivator resonates with me. I know that given the chance, I could make that happen. There's a line from, and I knew if I had my chance, I could make those people dance. That was, I think that was American Pie. If I had my chance, I could, yeah, that was American Pie. And I like that. Yeah, I think that's one of my tattoos, as a matter of fact. Yeah.
Well, you've been successful at it, I can tell you that.
Well, according to my definition of success, you know.
Well, and many others too. Well, let's open the line.
Sure.
So there's a number of people on here. Hopefully we'll get to everybody who's online. So you can unmute yourselves and we'll sort of try and I'll manage it a little bit. Tell us who you are, where you're from, and what you're doing during COVID, and if you have any questions for Carole. So I think, Maureen, I've seen you there, and if you'd love to chat, we'd love to have you.
Well, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, very cool. Okay, I'm living in New Orleans. I'm in half of a double shotgun. I came here from New Mexico, where I was an occupational therapist. I was just this close to getting Social Security, and my daughter had this baby coming. She already had one, and she didn't want to put baby in daycare when she just got born. So she said, can you come do this? And I thought I would just stay for a little bit until the baby was old enough to be comfortable in daycare, but that was 3 years ago. Now there's another baby, and I'm still here. So I did. I was lucky. I rented out my house, my little cabin in the mountains. I miss the mountains. And also it was very isolated. And New Mexico doesn't have too many cases of coronavirus. So instead of that, I'm at the epicenter. But my daughter's a nurse practitioner. Everybody's doing telemed. This is not long ago. I got this look. Turn around, your butt's facing the screen. Carole came into our family. My old dog died, and somebody needed a home for this 2-year-old Cocker Spaniel, and there's the cat. And actually,
beautiful.
6-month-old. Our next door, and there's a wall between us. Thank God. It would never work if I was living under the roof. At least not as cheerfully. And here I am. She goes to work every day, but I don't worry as much as I did at first. She's not in the hospital. She's doing telemed. And my son-in-law was managing a fine dining restaurant, and they closed down. So he has stepped up, and I see sides of him I did not know were there. He is so good with the kids. And today he had the vacuum cleaner out and cleaned the drapes these are like 14-foot ceilings, and no one had ever even thought about the top of the drapes. And he did that. And I thought, wow, I really don't know many young men that would throw themselves into house husband, having been in hospitality, was, front end, general manager, shaking hands, kind of knew all the saints, football players, in a man's world and dealing with a completely different life. So now he's in shorts and a t-shirt. He wears the baby and a bag on the front. He takes the little girls, he brushes their hair, school's closed. So it's like, how are we going to entertain the kids today? And every day I try to have one project that I want to do. So it's kind of been gardening and dog training. I've set up hurdles using poster tubes and bricks and things in the backyard.
Oh, so you're practicing what Carole's video was showing.
Not for me, for the Cocker Spaniel.
Oh.
Yeah. And that has turned out to be so much fun. I was working all the time. If my dog that I had would come when I called her, I was fine. That's all I wanted from a dog. But it turns out it's really fun. I'm not competitive. I didn't want to take her into agility training. I did. I watched it on TV. I went to some events around New Orleans and Mississippi, but I thought, I don't really want to. I want to do that with my dog. I just don't want to sign up and wait in line and be there all day. So I just set up, and the 3-year-old and the 4-year-old girls are loving it. We have training treats the size of peas. She jumps hurdles. We set up a Beacher's Brook, so we put the wading pool and made it like, I made them watch National Velvet with me so that they know what the steeplechase looks like. And then we set it up for the 2 poodles and the Cocker Spaniel.
Well, we're so happy to have you with us today.
If this thing ever passes, I plan on going to Jackson Square and putting a hat out and taking my trick dog and seeing if I can just collect look, I have a trick dog. Watch what she can do. So instead of just jumping the hurdle or fetching the little toy sheep, I say herd the sheep, count sheep. Yeah, I mean, I've been making up a routine. When my friend sent me, Carole, your circuit in the backyard, I had tears rolling down my face. I watched it 100 times. I sent it to everybody I knew. I said, I felt like such a kindred spirit, but I've never done anything like that. But suddenly I found myself doing a patter as Pearl went over the hurdle. Suddenly I found myself commenting on it or putting it together into a little routine. I thought I could make money this way. I can go down to the square and gather around. Do you want to see my trick dog? Watch what she can do.
Oh, well, thank you so much.
So far, we're healthy and well. But there is, believe me, you come to terms with mortality. That could all end so fast that it's like, it's like, you feel impatient and you think, oh, am I going to be impatient? How many more days like this do I have? Maybe a long time and maybe not very much. So
it's definitely hard to figure out. Yeah.
Coming to terms.
Yeah. Can I jump in here just a minute?
I've got
Yes.
Hey, I'm Anna, and I think you are fantastic. I'm like, oh my gosh, this woman. I've got to figure out who this person is. I'm in California, kind of near Mount Whitney, in a place called the Owens
Is that
Valley.
the north? The north?
If you folded California in half, I'm right on the line, right next to Nevada, in between two beautiful mountain ranges. So I'm 2 hours south of Yosemite, 2 hours north of Death Valley, and we don't even have a Kmart, is what I'm saying. Like, it's isolated. So if people would just stay out here, it's the perfect place to live out of quarantine because, nothing's going to get us unless you really mean to come here. But anyway, I wanted to, by trade, I'm both a nurse and a pastor. And so, I know, but don't worry, I'm not proselytizing.
That's a nice combination.
Thanks. So it's really good for right now because I have a background in critical care and then a doctorate in pastoral care and counseling. So it's kind of this balance. But I tell people, that I do stand up every single Sunday. You standing up and saying all these different things.
Yeah.
And then you to keep people engaged. It's
Absolutely.
speaking engagement. Now it has meat, it has things that hopefully people are going to go out and do, but I think good comedy does that as well. Really good comedy takes you just so far, tells the truth, and then goes a little bit macabre sometimes and comes back just on the edge so that people can think, but then they have the break to laugh about it. So, and especially now, I've got layers of things happening right now because I'm the chaplain, on-call chaplain for the hospital and on the ethics board and all those kinds of things. So I'm thinking about systemic kinds of things. And it's interesting to watch as the pandemic kind of goes on, how many things we're doing right now that are common to pandemics. The xenophobia is common to pandemics. The mass buying is common to pandemics. You can look at all these different Spanish flu and all these, the increased anxiety, going to the hospital when you don't need to go to the hospital, all of this. So then you ask yourself, okay, how do I as a community leader, or you as a community leader in your own right, be able to help people to release some of that anxiety through laughter or through positive messaging and be able to reclaim the core values of their humanity so that we're actually building something better on the other end. I don't think normal was so great before, but here we've stopped everything. And so the hope is that the new normal will be better than the old one.
Absolutely.
And
we'll keep our fingers crossed for that one.
Keep us. But I wondered what you were thinking, because I've been enjoying your deep thoughts. And I wondered what you were thinking in terms of, did you have, or do you have a sort of meta goal in terms of what you intend to bring forth from people or from communities related to what messages you're putting out there? Like, I saw your pep talk, your coaching COVID, like I see this theme, and like you're making in your exercise video, one could also read, she's trying to encourage him to self-care. Are you intentionally picking these topics? Because it seems that you are. Are you intentionally picking these topics for the building up of communities, or are they just kind of things that you're seeing and responding to, this kind of thing?
Every time, so what I did is a year ago, because we had way too many snow days, I got so bored last winter. I thought I'm going to try posting every day for a month. And anything that I post, it's a reflection of me. So number one, it's positive. Number two, it's usually light. And number three, there's an element of humor in it. And I was getting really good feedback from people. Like I thought I had 12 viewers, but then I would be out and somebody go, oh my goodness, I look forward to your posts every day. And then I realized that the average person perhaps doesn't view the world the way I do, that I see humor everywhere I go. I see things that I would like to relay everywhere I go. And I like to offer posts that are encouraging and come on, honey, you can do it type of thing. Of there's hope out there. Don't get stuck. Come on, let me give you a little bit of a push. And so, you're right. I do have deep thoughts, but at the same time, I like to present them in a way that are they can digest easily. Like it's painless to them to digest it. Like getting back to comedy, I would never consider myself a stand-up comic because I believe that any message I deliver in a humorous way, P.S., there's got to be a message in it. So I haven't sat down and come up with a strategy for what I'm posting, but because that is a natural reflection of me, of an inside out process, that's what's coming out during this isolation.
Well, I really appreciate that. And I'm going to be watching you for great ideas on, although you're not going to send me in no striped suit because that ain't going to happen.
No, I'm going, well, think of it, those fitness videos, I mean, that's an aside. That's just entertaining myself. And maybe the underlying message in those are lighten up, ladies.
Yeah.
This is us. Accept it. Who cares? Like, well, I mean, I don't care, right? Like And maybe that comes with age, but I don't know. I think we just, like, now is interesting because at the end of this, how many women will have gone white? Because they can't get to the hair
They
salon.
can't get to the salon. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
Carole,
Well,
That's a
thank
big
you.
hurdle.
Carole,
Thank you so much for that question. I've got Meza waiting to come on,
Hi.
and then we'll come to you.
Hi,
Mary
I'm
Ellen.
thank you.
Meza. I live just
Meza.
outside Bristol in England.
Oh,
So it's quite late here at the moment. I'm still working. I'm a medical secretary and I normally do 30 hours a week over 3 days. But at the moment I'm working from home because there are still activities going on at the hospital, which I can do remotely. But so I've got structure to the week. I do my hours over 5 days. So I do 6 hours a day instead of 3 very long days, because normally like Carole, I'm a widow. I was widowed 10 years ago. And so you get used to doing different things. And I normally help out with my great nieces every week. So I live with them for 2 nights of the week. So I'm desperately missing them. Like all of us are missing our young people that we can't see and have snuggles with and be part of their everyday life. But thank goodness for social media, because you can WhatsApp them. And I was playing hangman with another part of the family tonight on Skype. So, and I also belong to a group called Way Up, which is for widows and widowers over the age of 50. It was started in England, but it is worldwide. And every day we have, there's what we call the oldies, the ones who are part of the group to start with. We go to Two Jugs Cafe in the morning for those of us who are free, and then in the evenings we go to the Isolation Arms for a couple of drinks, or we just sit and chat.
A very appropriate name.
Yes. And it's really good because actually I'm seeing more people that normally I'll only see maybe once a year or twice a year if I'm lucky, if that. And so I'm seeing people from all around the country, on a more or less a daily basis. I've also started doing a bit of gardening, amateur gardening. A friend of mine who's another widow, she started a YouTube channel called the Antivirus Garden. So if any of you want to start doing any gardening, that's really good. But it's just, I think this is making us count our blessings. I'm lucky. I've got a roof over my head. I don't have a mortgage. I still work, although I'm nearly the age of the retirement age in England. I intend to work for as long as I possibly can because it gives me structure. I live in the countryside. I went for a 5-mile walk this afternoon, saw beautiful, I had time to stop and look at the daisies growing and really appreciate what I've got. So yes, it's not fun being I'm not in isolation, but I am very much social distancing. And if someone can get me shopping and bring it to the door for me, that's what I'm doing. But I'm so much better off than there's people who live in high-rise flats with, large families. And this will pass. It will pass. Whether it's going to be 3 months or 6 months, it will pass.
No.
And so, but I think most of us are going to come out a better person at the end of it.
I believe that.
Yeah. But they're saying at the weekend, because here it's supposed to be a lovely weekend, there's still going to be the idiots that are going to go to the seaside and the national parks. And, our one of the ministers today has instructed everyone to stay at home. But there'll still be people, like you were saying earlier, it's not going to affect me. I'm beyond that, I'm invincible. Well, most of us have sadly lost near and dear ones over our lifetime, especially the older ladies here. And so, you know, life is very finite and you've just got to make the most of it. And since I've been a widow, I've got to know what's important and what's not important and who's important. And we've all got those cupboards in the back of our head that you put the things you don't, it's not that you don't want to deal with them, but you think, I can't deal with that at the moment. I'll put that back there. And as you go through widowhood, every so often you open the door a little bit and something comes out, you let something out and then you deal with it. Well, that's how my experience anyway. But like Carole was saying, I always try to lighten the mood in any situation. It's like tonight when I popped into the pub, they said, "Oh, here's Meza. What are you doing today, Meza? Why are you doing that? Where have you been?" Da, da, da. And you know, if you've got to laugh at yourself first. You can't take yourself too seriously. You've got to respect yourself, but you've got to, you know, life's for living, and just whatever situation we're in is finding the good in it. You know, you've probably seen I've been been knitting. I'm knitting a baby blanket, and you know, it's like you were saying, doing different things, learning something new. But anyway, that's me.
Well, thank you so much, Meza, for sharing that, and for coming all the way from the UK.
It's fine.
Fabulous.
I'm quite comfortable.
That was a long trip.
Yeah. We've got time for one more call, and Mary Ellen, I can't see the last name on yours, but I'm just going to unmute you. There you go. Hi.
Thank you so much for this collective. And I'm one of those respiratory therapists. So this is my specialty, this respiratory virus.
Oh.
I've been off work, furloughed since the 23rd of March. I work in pulmonary rehab. So I work with people who have breathing issues. So I'm kind of a moodivator as well. I've worked with people who've needed lung transplants, 7 of them. So my specialty is in getting people over their fear. And I try to make fun of myself in those moments. I've been kind of in my little social distancing since the 23rd. So I'm from Motown. So I bring my Stevie with me, my Stevie Wonder, of course, as you see. And I take him to the store with me when I wander out. He goes in the convertible with me.
You should put a mask on him.
Oh, I haven't gone to that place. Well, there you go. Anyway, so I just want people, I'm trying to lighten the load, and I think this is a very large opportunity for learning. Absolutely. And it's going to be a big adjustment. This is a grieving moment on many different levels. And I just think that when I moved to California and I didn't know anyone, I took some improv comedy classes, and it really has helped me in being able to deal with on a daily basis people who have breathing issues. And mindfulness is helpful. Guided imagery is very helpful too. And there is hope, and we just have to be very positive and try and find the lightness and love in people. That's my thought going forward. And of course, take Stevie with you wherever you go. So, you know, that's my contribution. And, you know, as much as I joke about things, you know how you were talking about pole dancing? Well, I'm Polish. And in my gym, I talk to them about how we should start a little pole dancing area simply because I'm Polish and I'm dancing. Okay. So I try to, you know, make light of myself and make fun and make people comfortable with their breathing issues and their lives going forward.
Absolutely.
Peace and love to you all.
Well, thank you so much, Mary Ellen, for sharing that. And I just want to say, you know, there's a number of women that we've chatted with here who are servicing, you know, people and putting their selves in harm's way to care for others. And we can express our thankfulness for all that you're doing to help the people in your community. It's just really a wonderful endeavor. We're running out of time. Carole, it's just been a pleasure.
Thank you so much. it was a very enjoyable experience, and it was lovely to hear from the other women and what they're doing, and everyone needs an opportunity to share their story. And so obviously what you're doing is providing that, and kudos to you.
Oh, well, thank you very much. So we would love everyone to subscribe to the magazine. It's at45.com, ATFORTYFIVE. We're holding these our quarantine conversations over the next couple weeks at 11 in the morning, and on some days there's also an extra one on 3. And we would be posting them, or they will be posted on our YouTube channel. If you want to subscribe to it, it's at 45 Women Disrupting Influencers. And thank you again to everyone for coming in and taking the time to talk with us. And I hope you'll join us next week on Monday morning. We have a great author sharing her 2020 bucket list challenge. So it was something along the lines of what you were talking about earlier, Carole. So thank you, everyone, and we'll see you again.
Thank you.